You haven't ended chaos, you are the chaos.
Prime Minister, less than a week away from a budget where all the leaks suggest you're going to have to raise taxes and cut public spending, why are you prioritising a new government handout, free crumpets for kids?
Well, these breakfast clubs are hugely important for children. We're here at St Anne's in Reading. This has been a pilot school, and you can see the impact it has on children. They get something to eat in the morning, which wouldn't necessarily otherwise be the case, which sets them up. They do activity in breakfast club, which means that they're ready to learn for first lesson in a different way. So hugely important for children, giving them a much better chance to get on and to life. Really important for parents as carers as well, because they can drop children off and get back to work if that's what they want to do, and it saves them several £100s. And if there's one issue across the country which is absolutely the top issue, it's the cost of living. So every step we can take to help people with the cost of living is a really important step by this government.
Do you think Nigel Farage is racist? We've had this conversation and you wouldn't go there, will you now?
Well, I think that what he should do when he can see what to me is clear racism, a fellow MP saying, I'm fed up with black and Asian faces on my television. That to me is racism. I suspect it is for most people watching this. But he hasn't got the spine to call it out. He's got plenty to say about plenty of things, but when it comes to the fundamentals, he can't call it out. And now he needs to deal with this pro-Russian bribery. It's not just a serious criminal offence. It undermines our country. It's serious. The first duty of a prime minister, of a leader, is to keep our country safe. So he needs to launch that investigation.
Can I ask you about integrity? You made a promise when you came into Downing Street that you would restore respect to politics. Can you honestly say, hand on heart, to the British public that your government has done that?
Yes, and I'll tell you for why. When I came in, I strengthened the ministerial code. I gave more powers to the independent advisor. And in every case where there's been any issue, my ministers have referred themselves to the independent advisor and followed the advice.
You've been in trouble with that independent advisor yourself. You've had to talk about the fact you said you were going to recuse yourself from an appointment and you didn't. You've had to apologise over freebie scandals. Honestly, do you really think that your government has had more integrity than the last?
Well, as I say, I personally strengthened the ministerial code. I gave more powers to the independent advisor. And the difference now is that ministers know that if there's any issue, they must refer themselves in. You don't
think you need to be straight with people that you haven't restored the politics?
If you remember what happened before, there was no accepting of responsibility by the then Prime Minister or the government.
So you're just slightly less sleazy than the last government?
No, it's important we're accountable, and we are accountable, and that's why I strengthened the code.
Prime Minister, is it important that politicians stick to their word?
Yes, it is important that politicians stick to their word. They have to make decisions against a difficult backdrop. And we've obviously got big decisions to make in the budget that's coming in just a few days' time.
So I've got your manifesto here. Will you keep your word not to increase taxes on working people? It's on page 21 in this document.
Well, we made that commitment, and obviously we'll lay out our plans at the budget, which is just a few days away now, so you'll be able to see exactly what decisions we've made. Now, obviously, we make those decisions against a very difficult backdrop. We had the 2008 crash, where people haven't felt much better off since then. We then had austerity for a number of years, which destroyed our public services. We then had a botched Brexit deal, which damaged our economy, and then then COVID and the conflict in Ukraine. But we will make. It's very important that we take the right decisions for our country. I'm optimistic about the future of this country. I absolutely believe that this can be much better on living standards, on our public services, and on how people feel.
You told me a year ago, days before the 2024 budget in Chogam, you said we made an absolute commitment that income tax wouldn't go up, national insurance wouldn't go up, their VAT, as in working people, wouldn't go up. I said that in the campaign, we're going to keep those promises. Will you make that commitment again today?
Well, Beth, we're going to set this out in just a few days.
You won't, will you?
Well,
you said that just a few days before the last budget.
You know
you did make the commitment before the last budget.
You know that the decisions will be made and set out in full in just a few days' time.
You're not going to...
You'll be able to...
Will you make the commitment again now? You won't, will you?
You will be able to hold me to account, Beth, when those principles, when those decisions set out. But
you won't rule out tax rises on working people.
The principles will be fairness, and the three things that I'm bearing down above all else is protecting our public services, the NHS, cutting our debt, which is vitally important, and dealing with the cost of living crisis.
Minister,
because for most people watching this, the cost of living will be their number one issue, and that's why it needs to be the number one priority of the
cost
government.
of living. You won't rule out tax rises. You won't repeat your commitment not to raise taxes on working people. Freezing tax thresholds beyond 2028.
All I've said is we will set out our plans.
It's going to hurt
Wednesday.
working people, isn't it? Freezing tax thresholds.
Well, we're going to set out our plans on Wednesday. You will see them set out in full, and then you'll absolutely be rightly holding me to account for the decisions that we've made.
Your Chancellor said in last year's budget, freezing the thresholds will hurt working people. She's right, isn't she? I'm not asking you about the budget, I'm just asking you if it would hurt working people.
We are going to set out our decisions. We will have absolutely in mind that the cost of living is the number one issue for people across the country. I just want to put this here. And then we will make during
the election, you promised not to raise taxes on working people. You put it in your manifesto.
We did.
Before the budget last year in Chogham, I asked you this. You recommitted to that. I just want to say on record now, you are not recommitting to that today, are you?
Well, it's only a matter of days now to the budget. Okay. We will set out our plans in that budget. I've set out what the principles are. Okay. And I can tell you, politics for me is about who do you have in your mind's eye.
It's working people and you're going to put their taxes up.
I have in my mind's eye people who are struggling with cost of living, who can't necessarily make ends meet. And that's political. It's also personal. When I was growing up, we couldn't always make ends meet. We couldn't always pay our bills. I know what it feels like to be in your kitchen around the table wondering which bills you're not going to be able to pay this month. And so having who you have in your mind's eye is really important. That's what I've got in my mind's eye as we go into this budget.
Okay. PM, you promised to end the chaos when you were elected, but since the summer we've had winter fuel U-turn, welfare U-turn, Rayner's resignation, Mandelson's sacking, Andy Burnham's leadership drama, the Wes Street in Number 10 showdown, pitch rolling in income tax rises only to U-turn. You haven't ended chaos, you are the chaos.
Look, every minute that we're not talking about the cost of living is a wasted minute.
But this is chaos.
But at the same time, we have delivered free childcare for children between 9 months and 4 years. That's a game changer for children when they're in their education, and for parents.
Do you acknowledge
only yesterday we were rolling out the extension of free breakfast clubs. We're freezing prescription charges. We're maintaining the cap on bus fares.
So none of the stuff that I've just mentioned, that you're just going to gloss over that and not acknowledge that this is chaotic.
No, I'm not. But I'm really conscious of the fact that what the majority of people want to know is, if my number one issue is paying the bills and making sure I can make ends meet, what are you doing about that? And that's why it's important for me to say, these are the measures we're taking.
Are you Let me put it another way. Are you disappointed about what's been going on in your Downing Street since September?
I think that every minute that we're not bearing down on cost of living is a wasted minute.
As you're not a violent person, I'm not, no. I wish I was. I'm not brave enough. Sometimes I think, I watch a lot of stuff.
Bills will come down by up to £300.
We can cut bills by an average of £300 a year, every year, right the way as far as you can see into the future.
Get people's bills £300 a year lower.
That ought to bring down the household bills by about £400 for each bill, but that's a permanent drop.
That's what we said in the election. We continue to hold to that.
When Mum lived in the UK years back, she and her foreign friend once went to a local job centre to apply for 2 jobs they were not qualified for. So they went through a whole interview despite not being qualified. What's your worst job interview? I haven't had many. I've only had a couple. And the one I remember, well, there was one where I went with my friend that I put in the office. It was the first scene in the office. I went along with my mate, and we were 17. It was the school holidays. We went along to one of those services that put you in offices and factories, you know. And the guy had a ponytail, and he said, "I don't give shitty jobs. If 2 guys come to me, they're right there." And he called his mate up, and he went, "Yeah, of course they're 18," like that. And I remembered that because I remember thinking, he's trying to get us to trust him, but the first thing he did was lie. to his friend. And I remembered that, and I thought, and that was, sort of 20 years previous.
There's a few £billion of overspends. This is not a £22 billion black hole. That's complete nonsense. It was created by Rachel Reeves, signing off a deal with the unions at face value without any productivity improvements. I've never seen any government in recent decades do that. That's what she did. And then, of course, because of that tax spend doom loop she's in, and because of this constant speculation about what's ahead, businesses stopped investing, which means the economy stops growing. That's where we are. Business confidence has completely crashed under Rachel Reeves. So the things that actually generate the money for public spending have completely disappeared.
So it's all fine, no black hole at all when the Conservatives less power.
Listen, we've been through a difficult time. But wait, let me tell you where we were July last year, July 2024, when they took over. Business confidence, according to the Institute of Directors, was +5. To date is -73. That's the steepest fall on record. It's the lowest recording on record. Actually, it's not the lowest. It was -74, which is last month. That's the lowest ever. That's what she's done to business confidence. It's business confidence and investment that drives growth in our economy.